I had to change up my whole lifestyle to become world champion. I had to live every day as a world champion. So when it came to the world championships, I was already world champion. I just had to go and do it. It was already me. It's just something that I do.
Okay, guys, so we've got a very special guest on the show today, and it is Jordan Thomas, former world and karate European champion and the epitome of a true martial artist. Jordan, how are you? And tell us a bit about how you got into karate and martial arts.
Thanks for the introduction. Know more about me than I know about me. Like you just said, I'm a world and European karate champion. But how did I get involved in it? It was my dad. Which you can relate to, Damon. My dad was a world and European karate champion and had his own local clubs. And I kind of grew up in that family environment, you know. It's just like I used to go, he used to have classes Monday to Friday, and I used to probably go 4 out of the 5 every single week. And obviously, you know, like it's the martial family, you know, so I was excited to go there every single day. If I didn't go, I'd cry my eyes out. That was me. That's how my karate journey started. Literally just attending a little pee-wee class to then growing up with others, and then achieving my black belt traditionally, and then the sports side kicked in.
That's funny you said about if you're banned from classes, you'd be upset. I was the same. It was, if you don't do your homework, you can't go to a tournament. And it was a punishment. But I think sometimes, these days, with the way children can be, it's almost a punishment to go.
Yeah. It's great hearing all these stories from kids of martial artists, you know, and it's quite a theme that we see, isn't it? But Jordan, tell us about your school and the area you grew up with, and maybe some of the challenges you had and things like that.
Yeah. So I went to school I'm from Luton Town, and I went to infant school in my local area, and then I basically changed there a bit. My mum and dad split up. So then I went to go and live with my dad. So then I had to change to a different school in a different area. This school then leaded on to a school where I could get into, which was out of Luton. So as you may well know, Luton hasn't got the best reputation. So my older sister already went to a school which was probably about 40 minutes to an hour drive away. So we was able to get into another school outside to try and give me the best chance. That was the idea from my parents, was go to this school to get into that school. But for myself, if we look at education, was I the best student in the classroom? The answer was no. It was only when I got into GB, they'd done a dyslexia test, and I became, it came out that I was severely dyslexic. If I went to university, I would get extra time. I'd get all I'll get a laptop. I'll get, an extra support. But it wasn't picked up in school. So when you looked at my school report, it was Jordan's a nice boy, but easily distracted.
Same as me, Jordan.
Jordan's a nice boy, but easily distracted. Or it would be, a teacher would come knocking on the door. If something's gone in, apparently I was involved. Even if I wasn't there, I was the person who was involved. That was the story of my school life. But I kind of had to make a decision when I became 16. It became quite crucial to kind of find my path and what I wanted to be and find myself. And the college that I was talking to you about, where a karate academy will be opening, I actually went to this college, which provided a athletics academy. They had football academies there. They had basketball academies. Rugby, Saracens Academy was there. Arsenal Women Academy was there. There was this college that I really wanted to be involved in. And I had some friends who are already at this college. And I needed a certain grade, which I didn't get, but I was able to go into. I was able to still be involved in the academy, but just on a different course. But that kind of opened my eyes. It enabled me to kind of find myself, and I was surrounded by other driven people, which I never really had, who had kind of the same outlook as I had on sport. And it almost like just changed my whole outlook on things, the way I talked, the way I thought. Yeah, it was just perfect. The academy just really, really brought me a new look on life. So yeah, when I went to that college, I had an S&C coach, I had a physio, I had a performance director, and yes, I was in the athletics academy. But I was doing specific training for my karate. And also I was able to, obviously my education had to be up to scratch. Otherwise I couldn't do that. So it was almost, right, let's get this done. And then let's get that done. And actually what happened was halfway through my first year, my dad became a tutor at the college.
Wow.
And halfway through, obviously he's working in the sport department. I'm doing sport, and the tutor's gone to my dad saying Jordan's behind on his work. And I remember going home, and my dad, it was time, everyone was going to bed. I was like, right, Dad, I'll see you in the morning. And he goes, where are you going? I went, what do you mean, where are you going? Like, I'm going to bed. It's look at the time. I'll see you in the morning. He was like, no. He pulled out the chair at the kitchen table and said, I've got some work to do, and so do you. And he pulled out everything that I have, everything that I haven't done at college, right? Hours of work. And I had to stay up till it was ridiculous amount of time I had to. Literally the next day I came up to scratch.
I bet.
And I remember that like yesterday.
I did a talk at the weekend, and there's a quote I said, and it says, you know, when I was 16, my dad didn't know anything, and I can't believe how much he's learned since then. And I'm not sure about you, Jordan, but it'd be interesting because your dad, again, former karate world champion, very similar stories. When I was younger, I used to challenge because you're trying to be alpha male, and you need that character to be a fighter. So what were the kind of clashes that you had? And as you're a dad now, looking back on that relationship, what's the things you would take from it and maybe not take from it, and things you've analysed as a dad from a different perspective now?
This is going to be good.
Yeah. You know, there's a few things. When you're 16, the testosterone is running through you. You are the man at 16. Like, you know, you have your own mind. You're coming off your own, you know? And I remember one time, me and my little sister was arguing. And by the way, I still to this day, I was in the right.
Of course.
You know? But what my dad was saying, basically, Jordan, shut up. It doesn't matter, right? And I'm getting angry. Why are you taking her side? Da, 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 da. Now, this conversation, it really doesn't need to go further than that. But at 16 years old, now I'm thinking, right, yeah, let's see where I can take it. Right? And I switched up my tone, and my dad opened the back door. I ended up outside the back door, right? And he just basically he just went to me, really? You want to go there, do you? And I looked at him and I went, no, I'm sorry. Like, that was it. End of conversation, right? Then, remember, he's my coach. I still got to go to karate, right? I still got to go to lesson. He goes, pad up, Jordan.
Oh yeah.
Oh, gosh. That was it, you know, and we went through, well, obviously, I don't need to say no more.
What's your opinion with that? Because we've had similar stories. Sorry, Jordan, carry on.
Go on. I'm actually intrigued to hear, actually. What's
your
opinion
because
of that?
I say things about the the things that we've been through, and you'll say the same. But it's also interesting to know the opinion of the parents, because sometimes their opinion is different to ours.
The master.
I think we're right, Jordan. But tell us your opinion.
It's difficult, isn't it, when you're young, and like you say, the testosterone's going through your body, and you don't know life lessons at that stage. You're indestructible. You don't care about other people's feelings. It's just about you, and I think one of the beauties of being the father of an athlete, being, you know, in the sport yourself, is you can cross the boundaries that most parents can't cross. You can actually beat your child, and it's okay, you know. But sometimes it's a lesson. I think, you know, it's a deeper lesson than that, and sometimes you've got to learn. You probably understand this, Jordan. You've got to be a world champion for the majority. I mean, 99% of people. You've got to have a bit of humility. You've got to understand boundaries, and you know, it's a lesson that any young person, especially young men, need to learn. That possibly, you know, when you have the argument with your sister, you're probably maybe asserting yourself on her. I just don't know. I wasn't there, but I think with Damon, sometimes it was one of these things. Is you're very gifted, you're very powerful. You know, if you really lose this now, you could really hurt someone, and that'd be no good for your career, no good for you. You know, and sometimes it's a matter of, well, come on, let's go for it. And then when you pad up,
well, I think. I think you're completely, you know, I can definitely resonate with that. And I think with me, it was the lesson was understandable. I got that lesson. I understood that lesson, you know, and that's that really. And that's because of the environment that I was in as well.
Yeah.
I understand because I've grown up in karate, and because I've had the values, and I understand that lesson. And it was almost a type of thing. My dad was very good at. I used to, obviously, being from Luton, I speak, you know, to my mates, I used to speak a certain way, and I'd come back in and I'd still try and speak a certain way with my family members, and you know, the wrong environment basically, and it, you know, that was not allowed,
not appropriate,
and a click of the fingers, that's out.
And those things, you know, John, sometimes,
you know, that was
it's life lessons that, you know, your parents teach you, and you know, your dad being your dad, and you know, me being me. Some parents don't have the ability or the resilience to do that with the children, because it's hard. This is the hard route to do. But if you're thinking, you know that lesson that your dad maybe wanted to teach you, and you said you learnt a lot from it, and it was hard for you, right? I'll guarantee you it was 10 times harder for him to do that, because the easy way would be not to do that. And to beat your child is a horrible thing to do. But sometimes you're all saying, look, I'm doing this for you right now, so that, you know, you're going to understand what's in my mind, so that you can take this lesson with you in life. And it's it's difficult, because there's not many sports or things like this you can do this in. And I'm not suggesting that parents listening to this go and learn martial arts so they can beat the children. You know, it's, you know, and I'm saying it with a bit of fun here. It's not about beating your children, because it's a sport, right? It's a sport, so it's you can get a lot of messages over to somebody just by sparring with them, can't you? Yeah. You can teach them valuable lessons. Yeah, exactly. It's a language. It's a way of communicating. And only when you do martial arts do you understand that.
100%. Yeah.
And then as a coach, when you see other young athletes coming through, and you think they need to know the same lesson, you can't do it with other people. You can only do it with your own children, because you have that connection. You know. So a lot of athletes whose fathers, it could be the mothers as well, were in martial arts. They all got similar stories, haven't they?
100%, yeah. I think as well, Jordan, like obviously you've got your dad was your coach, former world champion. I think a lot of you teach in schools as well, and we see a lot of fighters and children wanting to excel in sports. And I've seen many people over the years that come to elite sports, elite teams, and they haven't sometimes got the goal. And it's like, what's your goal in taekwondo? What's your goal in kickboxing or karate? And it's, to win a few fights and to be pretty good at it. Whereas if you want to be a world champion, a European champion, and one of the best in the world, you need to have that goal from an early age, I believe, and an obsession. So tell us a bit about when you had that vision. From what age did that constantly be in the forefront of your mind, and how long did it take to get that goal?
See, I remember I've always said that I've always wanted to be world champion. Even from like the day before I became world champion, I said I want to be world champion. And that's always been in my mind. And I think that was from the environment. But also, I think I was in a privileged situation where I could see it to believe it. And when it became closer, where I put myself in the position to become world champion, I realized it wasn't just about having them goals, about becoming world champion. You had to be that person before to go and achieve that. I had to change up my whole lifestyle to become world champion. I had to live every day as a world champion. So when it came to the world championships, I was already world champion. I just had to go and do it. It was already me. It's just something that I do. It wasn't abnormal for me to go and perform my best. It wasn't abnormal for me to be under pressure and still excel. It wasn't normal it was all, everything there was just me, and I think that is the goal. It's like, yes, you have your sporting goal, but is that you every single day? I challenge that, and actually fighting sports is great like that, because you always get tested and challenged. And, sometimes you excel, sometimes you don't. But, when world champions become world champion, it's because they're already that person. They're doing that every single day. They've preached it. They've put themselves in the best position to do that. And guess what? It doesn't stop there. They carry on being a world champion for the rest of their day, because that's just them. It's their personality trait.
It's almost in your DNA, isn't it? And also as well, how do you feel about this? There's so many different sports out there, and every top athlete in each sport, they're fantastic human being, both mentally and physically. But what I've found is that combat sports just push it to that next level, because it's very primeval when you stood in front of somebody and you're actually punching and kicking them, and they're punching and kicking you. And I know there's rules to the games, but sometimes they're in there just to dominate you and hurt you. How do you cope with that when you're up against a fighter and there's rules in the game, but you look at them and right, I know what you're up to now. You're going to try and knock me out. You're going to try and how do you cope with that, Jordan Thomas? This fantastic athlete.
As Damon would have went through it as well, we kind of worked with the chimp paradox,
yes.
Steve Peters' theory, and it almost comes like, I was lucky enough to work with Steve personally as well, and the best way he described it, and also I had to practice. It's all right him saying all of this, but I had to practice it as well. It's just a job. I look at that person as a job. Your face is a blur. Your body's a blur. Your badge, wherever you're from, is a blur. Who is this? What do I have to do, to overcome this? And it's A to B, and I have to get the job done. And if I have to get a bit rough with you, we'll get a bit rough. If I have to make you miss, draw out your confidence for you to slow down, I'll do that too. What do I have to do to win? And I would say, that's what the greatest fighters do. I look at a fighter called Rafael Agaev. And Rafael Agaev is currently now in karate combat, but he's also a 5-time world champion in sport karate as well. Now, he has had a massive amount of success since 2000. At one point, he was an under-21 world champion and a senior world champion at the same time. And how did he change over a span of over 25 years to still be at that top level? It's because he's just doing a job. And the rule sets from then and now have completely changed. And all the people who say it was a bit tougher back then, or he's managed to go through all of that and still be at the top. And now he's bossing karate combat. Now, I got to train with this guy. I got to train with Rafael Gaev back for a long period of time. I went over there and trained in Azerbaijan, trained in the same camp. And we was doing a little warm-up game, football, right? Just indoor football. And he was just as competitive in that than he was on the mat. It's just, it's just him. And he's managed to adapt and he just does the job. What's the rules? Okay, bang. And he does it. Oh, right. Okay. We're not giving no penalties for fouling now. Okay, let's get a bit rough. We can do that. Bang. So like, oh, right, we can grab now. You've added this, we can grab. Okay, I'm going to grab you, steal the ball and shoot. Like he's able to adapt. Yeah. And I think if you can adapt in a click of the fingers,
it's true.
That's how you achieve it.
It's a burning thing I want to say. And Jordan, I just want your opinion on this. So the likes of Agiev and other people, and I've watched karate, for many, many years, and I fought quite a high level myself back in the day. All of a sudden, let's just take one technique. Let's my favorite sidekick. We could talk about front kick or whatever. Sidekick does not score. It doesn't score. It's a perfectly good kick, and it doesn't score. Now, I've got my own thought process about this, but I want to ask you a question. All of a sudden, Agiev goes out, scores a sidekick, and they score it, right? Yeah. And then...
Because he's Rafael Gaev.
The sidekick is no better, technically. It's just a good sidekick. Why is it, and we're not talking, WKF, or the various karate organizations, in your opinion, why is it that the referees will not score sidekick? I've got my own opinion, but what's your opinion about this fantastic kick that they won't score?
So I would say over the last year, especially in WKF, that sidekick is now scoring. That is a noticeable change, and people are now using that sidekick a lot more. Just because they're seeing that working, and some of the rule sets have changed, and people are now using that to effect. And also now you have video review as well, which you never used to have. So now the sidekick is effective. Now, one thing that I could say is, if I say the noticeable change, being from England in my generation to become on that world stage, when you're up against these refs, they're not recognizing England as a strong nation, right? So you have a lot of barriers to overcome already, because now you're fighting against people's judgment. Now, how I train for that is, I'm just going to do it again and again and again. And I'm going to overcome that. You don't want to score that? Okay, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Or I'll just pull it in a little bit harder. Or I'm going to... And what will happen is, then they will get questioned. And then you start breaking through, and then you start getting a reputation for that. You just have to find a way. And that was something that me and my dad had to focus on when I became world and European champion. I had to focus on that, is overcoming, because that was a constant barrier that we would always come up against. Okay, you don't want to score that. I'm going to be so fast. I'm going to do it again and again and again. It was literally just breaking barriers.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
We did it in kickboxing, taekwondo. We're doing it in karate now, and I say exactly the same things, because I know it's a subjective sport. I get that. But when you get the referees spoiling the game because of their collective mindset with these young athletes who are doing fantastic techniques, that they won't score because of the indoctrination of where karate's come from over the period of time. And in my opinion, the referees aren't not just WK, the World Karate Federation, but all of them. The referees, their mindset is 20, 30 years ago. They're not keeping up with these young athletes. I think personally it's spoiling the game. I think there's a lot more techniques and fantastic techniques that our young karate athletes can be doing, but they just won't score. But collectively, if we just keep doing them, like you say,
doesn't promote
eventually
it.
the referees will have to start scoring it. So yeah, we're on the same wavelength. Bang on.
And what will happen is, especially in a competition as well, if you are not doing that, but you keep doing this and you keep making it, the referees will have no choice to score it. So if, say, in the first round, they're not scoring it, and then they may score 1, and then you do it in the second round and you may score 2. What happens is the refs now are looking out for that, because there'll be questions on the outside. So the more rounds you get through and the more that you do and the more likable, that's why I say never complain, because you start complaining. Now, remember, it's a subjective, it's a judgment. The referees now have something against you, right? Just focus on that job. Come back to your line, go again. Come back to the line. Okay, is that what it is? Okay, go again. As soon as you start complaining, as soon as you start throwing your arms, one, your technique will start getting raggedy because your mind's not there, but also the refs are not likely to score. So you need to be professional every time you do
true,
it.
Jordan. And there is... No, go on, mate.
No, I was just about to say, there is minimal consequence for the referees as well.
Yes.
So until that's in place as well, I think we are going to get them 50-50s up, and mistakes.
So true. So true.
I'm answered for.
Remember when I was in Korea at the Korean Taekwondo Open, and obviously, Jordan, I transferred from kickboxing to Olympic Taekwondo, and you did the same, which we're gonna get into, and understanding your opinions of the different styles and how your experience was. But for I remember after the Korean Open, it was a bronze medal, and I got a bit ripped off. Should you say? Obviously, loads of Korean athletes. My style's not really Taekwondo, so this kickboxer in the mecca of Taekwondo. So I kicked this guy in his face with a hook kick and a roundhouse kick, and I lost the plot. And went into chimp mode, angry and fuming, and it's not fair, it's not fair. And I remember the Olympic Korean coach came over and he said, you're getting really good now, but you have to be cool as ice. He said, if you look at the top champions, there's no emotion. Because they're, as we said about the chimp paradox, they're in the computer. So for people out there that struggle to sometimes stay calm, and it isn't fair sometimes, we accept that. There's so many variables, the referees, the technology, if it's on a system, the video replay, all subjective. So what would your advice be to someone that often feels like when things are not going right or fair, they lose the plot, and when you become angry, you rush and you generally will lose?
I would say, train for that. Put it in your training. Create stress tests in your training. Something where it's likely to go wrong and you have to overcome. And then once you do go on the mat, it's not new. You're almost expecting it. And when it does come, it's not a shock. So you deal with it better. I would say train for it, be prepared for it, and kind of just know. And yes, we've all been there. We've all thrown out our toys before. But, it is about managing. And I think that's the key word, is managing your emotions. And it's like, how much effort do you want to put on throwing your arms up in the air and toys out the pram, rather than, okay, how do I get this back? So it's about rationalizing, what do I need to do? And it's difficult to come out, but, focus, refocus, have a trigger, what brings you straight back in.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. How you can deal with it when it does, right?
That's true. Last one, Jordan, and then we've got some questions we're going to ask you, but leading on from that, if I'm a karate athlete, I come to you, and obviously you're going to be working hopefully with the colleges, and you're doing loads of seminars and all your stuff yourself, which you've been flying through since retiring from competition, or not having a break, let's say, because I've heard you're coming to do the 10K this year. So I'm a fighter. I come to you and I get frustrated, throw my arms around. Life's not fair. So how would you create that stress test then in a training session?
As a coach, I would intentionally do drills which are points based, and I would say I wouldn't give that player the point. on purpose just to see how that person deals with that. And I'll let them carry on and let them make mistakes after mistakes and score and throw their toys out the pram. And then after break it down. It was like, look, I did it on purpose. How could we deal with it the next time? And then recreate that same scenario and do it again, see how they deal with it. That is one way, but also in a complex drill, keep correcting, that, and be that annoying coach, be that annoying person outside, where you keep correcting your athlete where they are doing it right, but you're telling them they're doing it wrong. And then, you just disrupt them and seeing if they can still persist, all them little stress tests or, create some noise around. Like create some noise in the gym you're working at, stuff that's going to distract you and being able to just focus. So develop, how long can you focus for? Do drills what require high level of focus and high pressure.
Yeah, that's great advice, Jordan. We used to sometimes in the Taekwondo team, you would all chat together. So you'd have a match going on or sparring, and you'd all collectively decide to really cheer for only one person. And you could see the other person being like, what? This is not fair. And then it creates that partisan atmosphere. And if you're fighting in Iran or Mexico and you've got thousands of Mexicans screaming, you're going to feel that pressure. And it's just little tests, isn't it? Little tests, which are great. So Jordan, you transferred from karate to Olympic Taekwondo, and that's why we met in Manchester. You were training karate at the time. So tell us about your journey of transferring from karate to the Olympic Taekwondo Center on your Olympic Tokyo bid, and how that experience was, because it was a huge change in environment for you, and then how you then proceeded to change from karate to Taekwondo.
Obviously, I was the only athlete funded for the Tokyo run-up due to my CV. So came to the Olympic qualification, and in one of my fights, I got kicked in the last 2 seconds of my fight, and it didn't see me through. And we see it happen at the Olympics. Here, it was just my turn to receive it, the qualification was really difficult. I think I was 5 fights. I've done 6 fights. I had 6 fights, and I still had 4 more fights to go after. So you can imagine on how testing it was. But in this particular fight, I was up, and in the last 2 seconds, I received a kick. Tokyo dream over. Came back, walked into the center, and just to do a recovery session. And I kind of knew it was over. Like, there's no more funding for karate now because there's no karate athletes that qualified. It's the only time we found out it was the only time it was going to be in the Olympics as well, because we didn't make Paris. And went in to receive my drink. The cup where all the nutritional
in Manchester, the gym in Manchester,
recovery. Gym in Manchester. And went to go to my hatch. Picture's been taken out.
Oh,
nothing there. I was like, okay. Looked over at the karate. I've literally just walked in. The karate mats are all piled up now. Like, Jordan Thomas is done. Walked into the office just to go and see the physio, right? Get called into the office, right, Jordan? That you didn't make the Olympics. You have 3 months. 3 months pay, and then 3 months here, and we transitional, and then you have to leave. I'm like, 5 years. Remember, including the pandemic. I've prepped 5 years, training 3 times a day. Like, what the hell do I do?
Yeah.
After that, I got 3 months. And luckily, I had a really nice lady, Natalie, as you know yourself. I'm going to mention her name, great, Natalie Vickers, because she's great. Lifestyle manager, always checked up on me to see if I was okay. Performance lifestyle manager, and she tried, helped me find some of this, but there was nothing really what was reaching out for me, because this became my identity. So I kind of went a bit rogue, and then started MMA, and I had some MMA, had some boxing fights lined up, and then around I think it must have been September, October. My wife, Ollie, she goes, do you think you can do Taekwondo? And me being me, like, yeah, of course I could do Taekwondo. What do you mean? She's like, good, because I've signed you up.
Did she?
I've signed,
you up.
yeah,
That's
good,
great.
because I've signed you up for the trial. I'm like, okay, cool, all right. So yeah, rocked up. And I remember sitting in a presentation and Gary came over to me, the performance line, says, Jordan, are you serious about this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm here, aren't I? I ain't going to waste my time. You know what I mean? And if anything, I'm just getting some fights in anyways because I'm doing MMA and kickboxing. It's just more mat time.
Yeah.
So anyways, we trialed up. He put me up against a kickboxer.
WAKO kickboxer. Was it WAKO?
Yeah, I think it was for their own.
WAKO, okay.
Yeah, WAKO. There's another one
WKA,
as well.
WKC, something like that.
There's another.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and he's a world champion in that. That was on his resume anyways. And I'm sure it was for their own entertainment. You know what I mean? World karate champion, world kickboxing champion, put them together. He was about 10 kilograms heavier than me as well, right? And it was just continuous. And, you know, I had the better of him. I scored so many more points than him, and I got invited for the 3-day trial after that, training with the team. And managed to get through that intense training, because that literally is just to kill you. And I remember him saying, if you pull out, if you have an injury, that's it, your trial's over. You would have to trial next time when it comes up. And I remember thinking, right, okay, it's fine. And to be honest with you, I got through the training quite easily. The only thing is my energy system. I really flagged from karate to taekwondo. That's what I really noticed, where karate is more explosive. And if I had to put my energy system up against and the equivalent to my energy system in a track event would probably be 800 meters. But then if you put taekwondo, it's probably about a long distance, 1,500 plus. So it's more aerobic because it's continuous.
Definitely.
And, you know, it's... So the two energy, so where I would be blasting the first hour, the fastest in there, not, you know, making all the noise, second hour, you know, like where everybody else is like pacing through, like looking all neat. So managed to get through that trial, had some fights at the end, beat some taekwondo players who've been doing taekwondo their whole life. And smashed through that. And that's what brought me into the GB team. And then, the transition into that, yes, there were some frustrations. And I did want to sweep them and smash them.
You have to.
You know,
you have
when
to.
a dink kick comes up, I just want to literally just want to take that back leg and dash him on the floor. You know? But one thing, like, a lot of people didn't know about me, and which Nelson actually recognized, is that I can adapt to rules. And where I brought up, you know, I did play football in school. I was playing for Luton Schools, got scouted for Watford Academy, played there, went to an athletics academy, but then I played first team basketball, you know, so I was able to adapt to each sport, take a set of rules, but also my dad had taught me to be able to change like that.
Yeah.
That's the set of rules. That's the drills. And if I say something, you have to be, how quick can you change? And that was something of ours. If we see something in a tournament and I need to do it, even if he's taught me in the warm-up area, I still need to perform and execute it at the best of my ability. And that was something that helped me transition into Taekwondo. I was able to fight against, I was able to train with, at GB with the best. I was able to fight and have a good scrap as well.
Yeah,
have a good
and enjoy it as well.
In international competitions.
100%.
Yeah. And for me, it was about being competitive. Challenging myself, and it became very hard for me to sustain that. The reason why I pulled out is, you know, for me now I had other responsibilities. I have a daughter, you know, I have a wife, and Taekwondo couldn't give me what I needed to sustain that. So for me, you know, it was time, and I had to make that decision to come away.
We do We do a lot of that stuff, Jordan. And that's very interesting what you've just said then. So a lot of our athletes, they all do karate, they all do kickboxing, they all do taekwondo, and some people kind of get a bit freaked out by this, but at the end of the day, it's all punching and kicking. And what we're teaching our athletes is to be versatile, to adapt, because although the kick might not score in this competition or that competition, everybody who's watching knows it scored. And just even that can just disrupt somebody else's game. So it's not all about scoring in a points game or a continuous game. It's about disruption. And something you mentioned earlier is making them miss, which a lot of people forget about, because making somebody miss, you disrupt their game. The sidekick doesn't score, but they feel that sidekick, it disrupts their game. So that's been very clever, and you two guys are very, very, very clever athletes. So there's a lot of karate people watching this, Jordan, obviously, because you've got fans all over the world. We know that you're a fantastic athlete. But on tournament day, what does tournament day look like from you, from waking up to when you first step on the mats? About your diet, about maybe your affirmations or your meditations or your music. How do you prepare on match day?
So for me, it doesn't change from what you see every single morning from me. That's how I am on the day. I try and keep it the same as I am every single day. So nothing's new. Again, like that thing that I said earlier is something that I just do. Now, my warm-up routine, I do that warm-up routine every training session. So I know from when I step on, I know what I'm doing. So I don't even have to think about it. It's less stress because I know what I'm doing. I have that routine sorted. To when I put on my pads, because when I start warming up, I haven't got the pads on. I might be in a shorts and tee. Okay, what's the time? Okay, I'm in about an hour. Okay. After I've done my plyos, my sprints, my activation, my breathing. Okay, now it's time to throw some punches. Let me put my pads on. Okay, 10 minutes out. Okay, it's now time to put the whole gear on. Okay, now I'm ready. So it's literally it's the trigger.
Yes.
So it's like as soon as I put them pads on, I know that I'm ready. As soon as I've got a heart rate monitor, which is very, very elite to manage it. And I know at the end of, if I've been in the red once, I know that I'm ready. So I'm not going into the match, and the first time I'm seeing red is not on the map. I've already been in the red, so my heart is. I know that I'm ready, so I know I don't need to throw one more punch. I don't need to throw one more kick. I don't need to. I know that I'm ready. I've done everything that I can. I'm prepared.
Yeah.
So that gives me comfort.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true.
That gives me the confidence that I'm comfortable. Like,
it's 100% true.
Yeah, and let's be real. There's some scary people out there, right? There's some scary people out there. Some scary names of what they've achieved. But when you're prepared, you just walk differently. That preparation, knowing that you're prepared, knowing that you're the best you, and in myself, I know my best does great things.
Yes.
So,
how true is that?
Yes.
Because sometimes when people warm up, when someone's really nervous and you say to them, you need to get to the red. But almost, I've been there myself. And if you're doubting yourself or doubting your fitness or doubting your preparation, that warm up scares you. And you're like, in your head, it's like, I don't think I'm ready to get in that place. And that just shows a lack of preparation and confidence, which is interesting.
How scary is that warm-up room at times as well?
I love it. I like it, mate. I love that you can cut the tension with a knife.
Oh, lads, let me tell you, the first time I watched Damon warm up down in Manchester. I forget which tournament.
Grand Prix.
On the Grand Prix. And I'm just casually walking around and just looking at it all. And going to see him warm up, and it goes on and on and on and on. I don't know many, if any, athletes that compete in the UK at normal tournaments. I don't know many that could do that warm up. Not even the warm up. And I'm watching, I'm thinking, is this going to stop?
Yeah.
And the intensity was, I was loving this, but I'm thinking, how's he going to fight after doing this? And when he finished, I said,
he's already fighting already.
And when he finished, I said, are you okay, son? He went, I'm ready now. And I was like, yes, come on. Madness.
Yeah.
I was in Mexico for the World
love
Championships, and I had a Korean coach, Harry, and he was a former world champion, and I was the last.
He's a lovely guy,
great guy, and I was the last one to fight, and everyone had lost in Team GB, and it was like, oh, Damon's the last hope. So Harry came to me in the morning. He said two things. He says, and it'd be interesting to see if you had any code words, Jordan, on the day of the World Championships. When I say A, B, spin hook kick. When I say 1, 2, punchy. And I was like, Harry, for one, this is on the day. So this is a bit last minute to be giving me all these codes. And then he said, and then he started analysing, and he said, I've seen that, in his own words, the altitude is making everyone tired because it's Mexico City. Yeah. He said, I've got a good idea. So basically, like, beasted me conditioning rounds. And he says, and then I was lying on the floor with the altitude thinking, I'm going to have to fight now. And he said, has the tiredness come out of you? And as I got off the first fight, my legs, I think Nick Hope tried to interview me, and I collapsed on the floor. I was like, that. So did you have any code words or like secret language with your dad or coaches?
Well, we trained with triggers. So it was almost like we had a name for everything, we just, but you wouldn't know unless you trained with us. You wouldn't know like what that meant. It was almost we had our own little language and kind of instantly connected as well. That's interesting.
And that connection with your coach.
Yeah, because my dyslexic brain.
I'm okay. I couldn't even cope with that on the day. I was thinking, if we could have done this a few months before, so I got it dialed in. Imagine you got A and 1 mixed up and you went in for a punch. It doesn't work.
And that's the thing with your coach as well. If you have trust in your coach, and a lot of people think the fighter fights and you're doing your stuff. But then that relationship with your coach, if you have absolute trust in your coach, and your coach is similar-minded to you, if you've got a strong mindset, if you, whatever your mindset is, if that coach is your coach and your mentor as well, that's when the magic happens, isn't it? And then you've got that absolute trust in them on the day that the guy goes AB, and you just do it instantly. Yeah. Because you have that massive connection. And on the same time, I've seen it a lot of times. I've seen it in Taekwondo. I've seen it in karate. And you see an athlete go out there and they lose a match. And it's not them that's lost. It's the coach that's lost. And I look at the body language, the stuff we leak. I talk about this internationally. And I've seen coaches come out with Damon. And I've looked at him and I've said, I've been watching it on live TV. And I've said to my family, Damon's going to lose. And I'm not looking at him, I'm looking at the coach. And 99% of the time I'm right. And we've talked about it after, haven't we? And discussed it. It's so coaches have a massive responsibility.
Massive. And that's something you can't play. I always refer to the coaches have to go through something as much as the athlete.
Yes.
And if, for example, especially if it's a big fight, because it's a big fight for the coach as well. If you have rank number 1 versus rank number 2, and you're going out there, you as a coach have to step up as well. You can't break. You can't get nervous. You need to be looking ways to overcome. And also, that athlete is going to be looking right in your eyes for reassurance.
Yes.
That athlete is going to be looking at your eyes. Are you sure? He's got to trust you. So if you're trembling on the way
it's not going to work.
That athlete's looking at us right. And I've been there a few times where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to not look at you for the whole. I'm going to do this myself because you've
lost the plot.
So I've got to do this myself. Sure. My dad's got a good story where, because we was in a blessed position where he was able to coach me at my world final. Now, huge. And we went into the holding area. So in the warm-up area, he kind of left me to it. Again, like I said to you, I already knew how to warm up. I knew when to put my stuff on. And the tactics ain't coming till later. We don't need to speak about tactics. And also we've kind of prepared for this guy, even though, we fought him twice before. We've prepared for this guy previously. So we kind of figure out, we know what we have to do. So we get called into the holding area. And my dad now has to be a coach, but he just wants to be a dad. Right? So he comes in shouting, right, you effing do this and you effing do that. Are you effing ready? Da-da-da-da. And he's like going into dad mode now, like, let's effing do this. Da-da-da-da. And he's going crazy. And I just had to look at him. I went, Dad, I've got this. Because I was like, I was in calm and I just looked, I said, Dad, I've got this. And he said at that time, he had to switch into coach mode and just walk away. So he had to switch. He realized that the dad has got the better of him.
Yes.
But as a coach, he walked away to give my space, where sometimes coaches can be there for too long and be in that space and don't know when to walk away. Don't know when to leave the athlete in a space. But he recognized that the space that he was in and he needed to walk away. So to get the job done. So yeah, it's a
great
tricky
story.
one.
For all you parents out there watching, take note of what Jordan's just said, because parents do it too, right? We've seen athletes look up in the stand and they see the parents, and they get the vibe, and it can just end them.
100%. Jordan, we could be here all day.
All day, yeah.
But that's been a great chat,
day.
Jordan. So much education, stories, and advice that people from so many different combat styles and in life will benefit from.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you for your time, Jordan. I hope you have a great year this year with your family.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
And I hope to see you on the mats if that works out. And if that works, we'll be there. We'll be there to support you, Jordan.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. That's great.
Yeah,
we'll get together down in Manchester pretty soon, hopefully, and we'll just talk about fighting for hours and hours and hours,
and then have some fun afterwards, as always.
Yeah, and which we can do.
Yes,
we can do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers, Jordan. Thank you, mate.
Warrior mindset.
Cheers, Jordan. Thank you.